This is Radio Taiwan International.
Welcome to the news on Radio Taiwan International. I'm Amanda Stevens, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan. We begin with a look at today's top stories for Monday, September 8th. Former UK Prime Minister's op-ed is commitment to Taiwan's security, says Taiwanese legislator. The U.S. think tank warns Chinese economic warfare could choke Taiwan's LNG lifelines. And the Japanese and South Korean defense ministers will meet for the first time in 10 years. But first, today's top stories. Boris Johnson, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, published an op-ed piece this Saturday voicing confidence in Taiwan should a cross-strait conflict break out. This Monday, Taiwanese legislators responded to the column, underlining allies' commitment to Taiwan's security and peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. Johnson, who visited Taiwan in August, authored the op-ed in the Daily Mail, a British tabloid news agency. Titled, "My Audience with the Young Men Willing to Die to Stop China Seizing Vital Technology That Would Put Its Hands Around the Windpipe of the West," the column explains Taiwan's struggles to democratize as one of the reasons it is so determined not to become another province of communist China. The former prime minister also states that the Chinese claim to Taiwan is meritless. DPP legislator Zhong Jiabing says Johnson's statement that the Taiwanese people will certainly resist and not fight alone implies allied democratic countries' commitment to Taiwan's security and defense. KMT legislator Li Yanxiu says
the Taiwanese people are willing to fight to defend our democracy and freedom and the sovereignty and dignity of the Republic of China. There are no winners in war and no losers in peace, and virtue is never solitary. It always has neighbors. Asia-Pacific and cross-strait peace and stability are of absolute benefit to the entire world, including being in the best interests of countries such as the US, UK, and Japan.
A U.S. think tank has warned that Taiwan's reliance on Qatari liquefied natural gas, or LNG, leaves it exposed to Chinese pressure, urging Taipei to diversify its energy sources. In June 2024, Qatar Energy and Taiwan's CPC Corporation signed a 27-year LNG supply and equity deal, with Qatar delivering 4 million tons annually from its Northfield East project. Last year, Taiwan imported 21 million tons of LNG. Australia supplied 38%, Qatar 25%, and the U.S. 10%. In July, the Washington-based Foundation for Defense of Democracies, or FDD, held a tabletop exercise in Taipei simulating how the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, could use economic warfare to block Taiwan's energy imports without firing a shot. Nearly half of Taiwan's electricity relies on LNG, all of which is imported with limited storage. The report said this dependence threatens grid stability and creates a strategic vulnerability. If LNG supplies were disrupted, Taiwan could face immediate global fallout, forced to choose between powering homes and hospitals or sustaining its semiconductor industry, the backbone of its economy. FDD warned that the CCP could combine cyber, diplomatic, and economic tools with maritime force to undermine Taiwan's grid. It urged Taiwan to reduce reliance on Qatar, pursue U.S. contracts even at a higher cost, expand renewables, and weigh restarting nuclear plants. The report also cautioned that China is embedding malware in critical infrastructure and called for Taiwan to strengthen defense across ports, aviation, and other vital sectors. The South Korean and Japanese defense ministers met for the first time in a decade following heightened geopolitical tensions in the region. Japanese Defense Minister Gun Nakatani is attending the 2025 Seoul Defense Dialogue, taking place Monday to Wednesday this week. During his visit, he will meet with South Korean Defense Minister An Gyu-baek and visit the Seoul National Cemetery and South Korean Navy's Second Fleet, according to South Korea's Defense Ministry. The meeting comes on the heels of China's military World War II commemoration parade, notably attended by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin, accompanying Chinese President Xi Jinping. The visit was seen as a media win for North Korea, marking its first major multilateral diplomatic appearance, and a sign of rising tensions in the area for the two U.S.-allied countries. An and Nakatani's meeting also follows one between South Korean President Lee Jae-myung and Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba last month, where both countries pledged to pursue closer economic and defense ties. However, this may be complicated by Ishiba's resignation in July, which is predicted to begin a period of instability in Japanese politics. Concluding our reporting on the Chongqing warrior, Chi Hong details what inspired him to act and to believe in change now that he has left China. Chi says that his inspiration was in part driven by his naturally rebellious personality. He often clashed with his parents and traditional rural upbringing, at one point even confronting his mother's threats of retribution from on high by raising one hand in the air and crying, quote, "Then let them strike me dead," end quote. While his current mindset may be partially influenced by his beliefs in Buddhism, he says that it's also been a defining trait of his for a long time. Quote, "As long as I believe what I'm doing is right, I'm not afraid of anything. I follow my heart, and I don't want to harm others," end quote. Another moving factor for Chi is what he relates as what felt like an expectation where he grew up to thank the CCP for what he sees as a life of hardship. He says it didn't feel right to him to thank the CCP for the gift of living while getting so little in return. Chi related, once again calling on the Chinese people to wake up. However, Chi's actions haven't gone unpunished entirely. Following his projection of anti-communist slogans, Chi's bank accounts and other financial assets were frozen, along with his WeChat account. In the most alarming display of retribution, his brother and a distant relative were arrested by authorities. Chi called on the police to treat others kindly, citing a letter he left behind for authorities. He doesn't ask naively. Chi says he knows that if one person refuses, there will be another to take their place and comply with what the government wants. However, he believes that kindness begets kindness, saying that only once this idea takes widespread root will society see large-scale change. After 2 weeks in the UK, Chi feels freer, despite his fears over the long arm of CCP retributive jurisdiction. One source of enlightenment, he says, has been finally making contact with overseas pro-democracy organizations. Despite rumors that these organizations used cries for democracy for personal gain, Chi says the reality has been the exact opposite, and that working with them has actually given him hope for the larger Chinese community. He says he's found comfort in quietly helping others, not as a hero or warrior, and that connecting with these communities has made him feel less alone. All in all, Chi says he hopes that Chinese citizens will stop allowing politicians to incite an agenda of hatred and confrontation, and that they instead embrace the ultimate human values of mutual support, understanding, and kindness. The National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, or NASME, welcomed President Lai Ching-te's proposed three-pronged approach to Taiwan's economic future, saying it hopes mergers can strengthen competitiveness and help companies compete internationally. In an interview, President Lai said Taiwan's economic strategy will focus on 3 areas: helping small and medium enterprises, or SMEs, manage the impact of reciprocal tariffs and transition toward digital and net zero goals, supporting mergers and traditional industries to boost competitiveness, and using Taiwan's sovereign wealth fund to invest in or acquire global distribution channels so local products can reach overseas markets. NASME chairperson Li Yujia said SMEs account for 98% of all businesses in Taiwan, and their struggles could create major social challenges. While government efforts on tariff relief and transformation continue, SMEs also hope mergers will expand competitiveness and build stronger supply chains. Li urged the government to cooperate across ministries and present concrete measures to turn strategy into action. National Central University economics professor and Locust Cell Company chairperson Cho Junrong noted that Taiwan has over 1.6 million SMEs employing more than 8 million people, often with just 5 staff each. He said scaling up through mergers is the most direct solution, while sovereign fund investments could quickly place traditional industries on the global stage. The fishing and dive industries have long had an unstable relationship, but recent reports of alleged blast fishing in ocean tourism areas have both sides at even greater odds.
Upsetting dive footage captured by ocean tourists of dead fish drifting along the seabed has many pointing fingers at the fishing industry. Meanwhile, local fishermen, feeling attacked and slandered, clash with divers. One boat captain shouts at the divers to stop making trouble, accusing them of antagonizing fishermen on purpose. He later explains that the cause of the fish die-off must first be investigated. If the allegations are untrue, the fishermen deserve justice. A map of the area details Longdong Bay in Gongliao District, New Taipei City. Fishermen must take a curved route to pass through the area, which inevitably overlaps and causes conflict. One diver says that, starting at a depth of roughly 12 or 15 meters, many dead fish are seen along the sand. He alleges that someone must be blast fishing there at night, citing footage of boats and nearby bubbles. Another fisherman claims that the fish died from the sunscreen used by the divers. He said their community doesn't practice blast fishing, and that kind of fish isn't very valuable anyway. Regardless of modus operandi, the mass fish deaths are a problem. The New Taipei City Fisheries Department responded that they will investigate to clarify the cause of death. As for the suspected blast fishing, while no evidence has been found, the department has contacted the Coast Guard, requesting increased inspections for any fishy behavior. Michelle Chang for RTI News.
Thanks for joining me for the news. I'm Amanda Stevens. Stay tuned for another 50 minutes of English language features, brought to you by Radio Taiwan International.